Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have Lana Stevenson with me. Hey, Lana.
Hi, Dr. Kimberly. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to get into your story because you've done quite a few pivots. And, as happens to many of us, things come into life that we weren't expecting, and we just have to keep flowing with it. So excited to hear your story. But before we start, I'm going to go ahead and read your short bio so people know who you are.
Great.
Lana Stevenson is the founder of Resilience Shift Health, Wellness, and AMP Fitness, a renowned cancer exercise specialist, and a passionate advocate for using movement and nutrition as tools for chronic disease prevention and longevity. With over 3 decades of experience in the health and wellness industry, Lana has dedicated her career to creating safe and effective exercise programs that empower individuals to live longer, healthier lives. So I am so excited to hear your story.
Yeah, that is it in a nutshell, but it is a really long story. I grew up in South Africa, and the time that I grew up there, it was a time of apartheid, and things were getting really bad politically. I was not a fan of apartheid, although growing up we didn't really understand it. And because of growing up there, South Africa was really boycotted. We didn't even get television until I was in my junior year of high school. So, if you were white there, you lived a very privileged life, and a very protected life. Like, you didn't really understand or know what was going on in the rest of the world. So, we played, there was no computers, there was no television. We were really outdoor sports playing people, and um, very naive. So, you know, I went to college, married my childhood sweetheart, and he had to do the military after college. He's an architect. 2 years, and we got married. I was 24 years old. He was 27, and we had our first child. Yeah, in 1988, 1985. And at that point, I said, no kid of mine has to know what apartheid is. And we made plans to leave. And we went to Canada as our first choice, to Toronto, because my sister had immigrated there a couple of years before. So, we went off to Toronto, and my second daughter was born there. Uh, we got divorced, and I remarried a physician who got into biotech, and that was very difficult. So he got a job opportunity in San Diego, where we immigrated in 1995. And at that point, I had a business degree from South Africa, but my passion was always sport. I was a very competitive athlete and black belt karate, and that was my life. I used to run early mornings with my dad, before college. So when I came to San Diego, I wanted to do a master's in exercise physiology. They didn't recognize my degree and all of that. So I got into personal training through the different certifications. And the focus of my practice has always been really performance athletes, general fitness. And, I was young and competing myself, and my kids are young. So that was where I went, and that was what I knew and loved. But as we get older and things start to shift, our view on life starts to shift, and the people we want to help starts to shift. So, fast forward 2014, I have two beautiful daughters. One is 38 now, and the other one is 34. But in 2014, when my younger daughter was 24 years old, she was diagnosed with she was stage 3 colon cancer at that time. They removed 3/4 of her colon and hit her hard with chemotherapy, hoping that would get rid of the rest of it, but it had permeated 7 lymph nodes already. So we were just praying. Needless to say, 6 months later, her first metastasis appeared in her lung. And so long, it's been 10 years, and she has defied all odds. The resilience and of this kid is beyond. She was given 14 to 24 months because she has, when cancer goes from the GI tract to your ovary, it's called a Krukenberg tumor, and that becomes a whole different animal. It's very rare and very aggressive. So she's now 10 years, but she's gone through at least 12 surgeries. She's on her 8th round of chemo now. So going back to the beginning, I was so naive. I grew up in such an incredibly healthy family. My grandparents lived till 106 and 100. Like, there was no illness. It was like, what is this? I had no concept of how to deal with it. And I was on my own, single mom. My older daughter had moved back to Toronto. And I learned as I went, and my heart was aching and breaking because I didn't know. And 10 years ago, the medical system was actually very different than it is now. It has progressed a lot, thank God. But back then, exercise was not an issue. Eating was not. Eat whatever you can manage while you're on chemo. Sugar, it was like, when I'm looking back now, and I was so naive, what did I know? And opiates, just kill the pain. She was so overprescribed opiates, she became addicted, and that became a whole different animal. So we were dealing with that. So initially, in the beginning, I didn't even know about exercise as, for something that cancer patients can do. They were told to rest, save energy for the chemo, it's going to hit hard. So I wrote an ebook and created a little course. And I think it was mostly for my own therapy, really, for parents of adult children going through cancer, because it's a very different animal caretaking an adult than a child. You have to respect them, their partners, and you don't have full control. So that in itself was a learning curve for me. And then I discovered Cancer Exercise Training Institute. And I thought, this is maybe something that could, help me help cancer patients and even my daughter. But being mom, that hasn't been the case, but she's been my inspiration. So I got the Advanced Cancer Exercise Specialist Training course, and then I started looking at other different chronic diseases, and I thought, why just cancer? So I got the medical exercise specialty course. I'm a medical exercise specialist as well. And then I thought, why not prevent these diseases? So I did lifestyle and longevity specialty as well. So that's kind of where I've gone in terms of just wanting to learn how to prevent, and then how to function and live as normal a life as you can, struggling with these diseases, because it goes so beyond the actual disease. Especially as a young person, the whole mindset, the fear, the addiction, it's actually heartbreaking. And so my mission was, if I could do anything possible just to change the mindset of these people, to know that this is not a death sentence, that they can still live a life and choose to be as active as possible. And for everybody, not just people with disease, you've got to move. You have to move. And, it's become, exercise is medicine. And that's the only pill you need to take a day, 1 hour of high intensity. So in this, in this whole process, 2 years ago, I discovered what is called blood flow restriction training. And that really lit me up, because this is it's a biohack which has been used in Japan for over 50 years, but has just recently come to the States. So a lot of people are skeptical, but it's incredible in that what they are also finding in exercise, all movement is great. However, to actually really get the metabolic changes, and the human growth hormone and nitric oxide, which, as we get older, we stop producing it. You have to do high intensity exercise. Problem with that is, unless you're an elite athlete or you're under 25 years old, who can do it? Not many people, and especially if you have chronic disease. So this particular method, you mimic high intensity exercise with minimal training and very lightweight. So within 3 to 5 to 10 minutes, you can create that nitric oxide, HG, human growth hormone, and which aids in healing, and it gives it helps with muscle building, bone density, a myriad of things, metabolic disease, pain. So I saw that and I thought, maybe that's something I can bring into my practice. So I did. And I started on myself. I didn't even think about it from an athletic perspective. And what happened was, I thought, I hadn't been racing because my tenure, initially I was one of the top distance and marathon runners in San Diego for many years. And then I turned 52 when she was diagnosed. And I just really stopped competing. So I thought, all right, let's see. We'll use this. I used it for about 8 months, and I went and I raced, and I was way up there. I medaled. I beat the women who used to beat me, and I thought, okay. But more than that, on the last hill going down, I fell and broke my wrist, and I thought, okay, BFR, let's see if you really work in healing. So I fractured it pretty badly, and the orthopedic surgeon said, at your age, I was 62 at the time, you're going to take 8 to 10 weeks. I used the bands. I did no weight bearing, 5 weeks, completely healed, and no PT needed. So I was sold, and now I use that predominantly in my practice for everyone, but mostly with people who have chronic disease, because they feel like they can do something. And they see the benefits. I have a diabetic client, young woman, she's 300 pounds. And within 9 months, she lost just over 90 pounds because she could do something. She hated exercise. It was so uncomfortable. Now she could do 10, 15 minutes, and she started seeing the results. Her ophthalmologist was blown away by how the impact it had on her retinas, because they started deteriorating, and it literally changed her world. And just giving people hope and something to look forward to. The whole psychological side of it, to me, was so huge, because I watch my daughter struggle daily. I watch the fear, I watch the pain, and if I could help anyone, just take a little bit of that away, that's my mission. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, how I got into what I'm doing. And I'm just constantly learning. It's like, I certainly don't know it all. And I'm just really loving the process of that. This is becoming mainstream, that exercise is medicine. I mean, people would laugh at you before, but the studies are all showing this. And there are a lot of, physicians now using medicine. This should be your one pill you take a day. And I can proudly say at 64, I'm not on a single medication. Even with all the stress of, and that's huge. Stress is the killer, but I'm managing to keep it all together because of my active lifestyle, my nutritional habits, and mindset. So, I'm living what I'm teaching, and I'm learning all the time. And I'm just loving, how impactful you can be, even if it's on one person. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And that is stressful to have a child, even an adult child or any family member going through something like that. It just, you know, the fact that you are so resilient, you continue to learn and turn it inside out. Basically, you said, okay, you're giving me lemons, I'm gonna make lemonade out of it, you know?
Right. And sometimes in life you don't really have a choice. She moved back home a couple of years ago, and that's been harder in that it's in my face 24/7. Like I'm watching it, and her dad is completely not involved, completely uninvolved. And so yeah, it's me and all of my family. I have the most wonderful family. They're all in Toronto. So, they're great support, but they're not here.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's been a journey, but I have to say there's not much I wouldn't change other than just watching my child in so much pain. But what it's done for me personally in terms of helping other people, um, it's been a godsend. And I still believe she's going to get through this. We're going to do it.
Yeah, and, what you're doing is really very, niche area. I had never heard anyone doing movement for cancer before. Or, and everybody knows that if you have a chronic disease, specifically obesity, you want to move, right? To try and get things moving. Or if you have arthritis, you want to move so you don't get locked up.
Right.
So people know that, but so many times when someone's told cancer, all of a sudden they're just going to sit down and do nothing. Like, I'm going to sit here and wait for the cancer to take me, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's
Because
special
it's
diets.
so
Yeah.
it's so hard, Dr. Kim. When the side effects of chemotherapy are so brutal, that you don't want to do. You can't. You're nauseous. You're in pain. It's and that's where the bands come in, because even if you're sitting on your bed and you're just moving your arms for
Uh-huh.
3 minutes, getting that little bit of burn,
Uh-huh.
that's still creating nitric oxide and HGO. So you're still getting the healing effects. There are so many incredible stories, and testimonials to how people who have really been suffering, um, have healed because they're able to do something, and a lot of physical therapists are using it in their practice now too, because it heals bones and tissue very quickly.
Wow. So you could be laying down, you could be sitting down, it could be, I mean, if someone, um, I don't know, sprained an ankle or broke a leg, they could still maybe be working
Right.
out with a different part of their leg.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and yeah, and you can even sit down, work your arms, move one leg, because you wear the bands on the top of your arms, the top of your legs, and there's a whole protocol. My mom is 86. I sent her a set of the bands. She lives in Toronto. I train her twice a week online. She's the only one of her friends who still drives. She's up and moving. She gets up and down off the floor quicker than any of my younger clients. And this has been for over a year of doing this. And my dad passed away a year and a half ago, and that's why she started doing it. And she's blown away. She says, I need this so much because I'm on my own. And even that in itself to me is like worth everything. That my mom's independent, she's on her own, and I can help her. It's yeah, it's just incredible. And people who are bone on bone, because they can be used in the pool. So even doing water exercise with them, you get the same benefit. And so I have a few clients that I do deep water running classes with them. It's like a miracle.
Oh, I would love that because that's what I do. I started this last year. Someone introduced me to aqua
Mm.
exercise with those spongy weights that become very heavy in the water.
Oh yeah,
I love it. So I did it all last summer and I'm like, I do it every day. Every day I get in the pool with those spongy
fantastic.
things and I'm like, oh, because it's so easy on my joints and everything. I
Yeah,
can exercise really hard and it doesn't hurt my
and
joints.
it doesn't hurt. And that's with the bands, you get like double the effect in half the time with less resistance. I mean, that's the magic of it. And that's why at this point in my life,
Mhm.
like every time I would try to increase my intensity so that I could get back and run again, I would break down until now. Until I've had the bands for 2 years and I don't have to run so many miles anymore. I can just run less miles, less frequently with the bands and get double the effect and not
And
hurt.
these are
It's
these restrictive bands. They're restricting like some blood flow, right?
now how it works, it slows the blood flow to your working muscles. And what that does, it tricks the brain into thinking that you're working harder than you are because it's not getting enough oxygen. It's going into hypoxia. You're creating lactic acid. So your brain sends a signal to your pituitary glands to produce nitric oxide and human growth hormone.
Mhm.
And that and the effect of that lasts 24 to 48 hours.
So do your muscles get sore and achy like they do if you have
No,
that lactic acid in them?
no, they don't. They don't. And you can build. I mean, honestly, at 64, I've never been able to really build muscle. I'm very small but I mean, like seriously, like I'm 64. This is from doing like nothing. I don't do anything. Like I'll maybe run with them or run in the pool with them or do the rowing machine, but I am not lifting weights. And my body has never been stronger.
That is
It's,
amazing. You
it
know, I
is
was
amazing.
in an exercise class with a husband-wife team, and they were in their mid 60s, maybe pushing 70. And after exercising 3-4 months, they talked about an experience they had where their chandelier, for some reason, decided to fall, and they were able to catch it and hold it. And they said, before this class, if we hadn't gotten our strength up, we would have been crushed by the chandelier,
Oh
but
yeah.
we caught it. And people don't realize that they're thinking, well, I'm fine. I have enough strength for doing what I want to do. But what if you do need to carry a heavy box or do something in your household? You don't realize if you're not working your muscles, you're not going to have the strength to do it. I mean, if you're 25, you will. The older you get, you need to keep that strength up.
And that's the age defying savior, muscle growth. Because what happens to us as we get older, especially women, muscles atrophy and bone density. And that's why this enables people to, as they're getting older, if they've never exercised before, they can still attain a much greater level of strength and bone density, metabolic issues. I mean, all of the chronic diseases. And there are very few people that it's not safe for. There's sickle cell anemia. And if you have lymphedema, you just wouldn't use it on that limb. But you could use it on the rest of your body and still get the same effect because it's systemic. But yeah, and it's not even just the strength. People think I'm fine. I've been healthy my whole life until you're not. And then, you can't fight it. So, some people are blessed with longevity genes and some are not. But even with the longevity genes, you've got to be able to, our lives are very different now than 100 years ago with all the toxins in the atmosphere and all the toxins in our food. There's all these silent little things eating away at us, which they didn't have before. I mean, like I said, my grandparents to 100 and 107, they came from Russia and they didn't exercise, but they lived. He was a dairy. He had a dairy, so lifting, and they lived a non-sedentary life, and that's the difference. We're all so sedentary here, and if you don't make an effort to do something, you're gonna pay the price. It's not if, it's when.
That makes so much sense. And I
Yeah.
was wondering, with those bands, as they're restricting the blood flow, so, and you said would use lighter weights, but let's say I'm one of those people that's not very smart, and I think to myself, well, I can always lift 15 pounds, so I'm going to keep lifting 15 pounds with the bands on. What will happen if I try and lift 15 pounds with the bands on?
You won't be able to.
I
You'll
just won't be able
fatigue so quickly. You will fatigue so quickly, you won't be able to do maybe 2 reps. Yeah. So, and you're not going to hurt yourself unless you really try and push it to 10 reps. But yeah, you won't be able to. And that's the point, is because, you know, especially men who are like squatting 300 pounds, they have no knees left. They have shoulder replacements, knee replacements, hip replacements. So what the bands do, they stop you from destroying your joints. And you know, like marathon runners, so many people that, you know, I run with who didn't do cross training, who just ran and pounded the pavement, and, you know, we didn't know. No one's running anymore. They've all got new hips, new knees, but they can't run anymore. And that's why I feel grateful that I knew what to do. Even without the bands, I still cross trained as opposed to just beating my body up. So that, you know, so using the bands prevents that. And you know, all these muscle men in the gym, they don't need to do that. They can still do that, but they don't need to do that all the time. They can incorporate the bands into their routine, and maybe have 1 day of heavy lifting as opposed to 3 or 4 in a week, and save their joints. Because yeah, I mean, it's great to be strong and healthy, but you have to be smart about it.
Mhm. And does it have an effect on the joints? Does it make you more flexible at all, or is it just the muscle?
It the effect it has on the joints is that it prevents deterioration. And, you know, it increases like the lubrication, because your whole body systemically is working better. So what they have also a food supplement called Start, with collagen and all the good proteins and amino acids. And so they say that helps a little bit with, you know, the collagen and the cartilage growth, but not significant. But what it will do is prevent further deterioration. But then you have people also for stretching and more flexibility. People do use them during Pilates, yoga, and that all makes a difference. So, you know, and it depends where you're at in your fitness and in your health, that, you know, you get an individual protocol that'll work for you. Definitely individualized. You know, it's not a one program fits all, for sure. And just like cancer, and that was what was so intriguing to me when I did the cancer specialization. Every cancer has different things you can and can't do, different treatments, different recoveries, and it's really quite a huge array of modalities and methods you have to learn. You cannot even treat 2 breast cancer patients the same way, because it depends on what kind of surgery they have. It depends on what kind, you know, if they putting in implants and how they're putting in implants. It's like, it's very complex. And I'm just so grateful that I know that, you know, and that I can really help people who don't think they can. And that's I think probably the biggest part of my practice is I focus on what you can do, not on what you can't do. Because, you know, even in healthy people, like they'll get a backache, or oh, I can't work out. You know, no, you can. There is something you can do if you choose to. There's always something you can do. And you know, and that's mindset. That's all about mindset.
Exactly. And I was thinking, a few years ago, I injured a bicep, and then it went into my shoulder, and I got a frozen shoulder, and it took me almost a year to make it go back to normal. I couldn't even, like, I could put this hand back, but this hand couldn't reach to put my ponytail in. It was like embarrassing. Like, I'm too young for this, you know?
Right?
Why is it doing that? And at first I just kept exercising anyways, to the point where I did keep re-injuring it because I was so stubborn that I
Yeah.
finally had to just stop. But if you have something like that, could you use those resistance bands?
Okay. So my mother, who is 86, had a frozen shoulder. She went to a physical therapist who didn't know from the bands, I said to my mom, okay, tell her to print out the exercises that you do, and we will do them at home with the bands on while I'm training her online. So we did that. 2.5 weeks, she had almost full range of motion, not completely full, but she could move in like almost no pain, and now she's fine. So it took like, and I mean, she was in a lot of pain. She couldn't move, and she's 86, so she's not going to heal quickly. Yeah, and that was with the bands. So, and knowing what exercises were appropriate for her from the physical therapist was helpful, because that's not my field of expertise. So, getting that information and using the bands was just perfect.
Amazing. So since
Yeah.
people are not using as much weight and they can be like laying in a bed or on a chair, just moving one part, does it take longer to do the exercise? Do they have to do more
No, much
steps?
shorter.
It's
Half the
shorter.
time. Half the time. You get the burn in like 3 minutes, and you're good half the time. And that's the beauty of them. It's like people who don't have the time to work out an hour a day. You don't want to. You actually maximum 10 to 20 minutes with the bands on. And that's where sometimes I have a problem coming from the endurance world, where I love to run for hours. That was hard for me to rein it in, and I had to. And the results just proved everything. I don't run half as much as I used to, and not with the same intensity, even to the point where instead of going on, let's say, a 5 or 6 mile run, I will get on the treadmill and walk at a full elevation, at 15 elevation. So I'm working, but I'm not pounding my body, but I'm getting the same, if not better, results without hurting myself.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So do people ever just put these on and like walk around the house and do their housework or
absolutely.
something?
No, absolutely. And that's exactly the way to use them. Like, if someone's not an exerciser, put them on. You want to, and I teach you how to feel the burn. Like you've got to get into that burn of nitric oxide. So let's say you're vacuuming, or yeah, totally gardening, walk the dog. It's fit it into your life and into things you're doing anyway. And so if the dog stops, okay, you're not going to get the burn because the dog stopped and you had to stop. So what do? Just do squats till he's finished pooping, pick up the poop, and then keep walking. It's or I mean, there are a myriad of things you could do just to keep your body moving. 3 minutes max is what you want to get the burn. Well, 3 minutes minimum, and then not more than in a row, and then not more than 10 minutes if you're doing it like with the breaks in between. So yeah, it's
not long at all then. So you wouldn't walk around and spend 30 minutes or an hour wearing because it would be too much.
No, like elite athletes are using these too to get the edge. So like Kansas City Chiefs use them. A lot of Olympic athletes use them, and they would probably use them a little differently and spend more time in them, and will use them in their recovery days, because then they can still get the effect without working hard. So yeah, there's so many ways to use it, and that's why it's so personalized. There was a woman also on the B3. I was looking at her testimonial. She was huge, like I think maybe in the 500-600 pounds. She could barely do anything. So I mean, she lost a few 100 pounds, and she was still a big woman, but she could have a life again, and really doing minimal. Like honestly, like sitting on a chair doing leg lift, like minimal. But as long as she was getting that burn in her muscles, yeah. So
that's so amazing, because I've always loved exercise, like you. I've always loved it. But there are people that just the thought of exercise makes them want to throw up. They're like,
it's
they
true.
do not want to exercise.
I know.
Nothing attracted to them.
And that's true. And that's the thing. Like, you don't even have to get hot and sweaty. You can like literally do it in your clothes at lunchtime, at work, at your desk. And yeah, and you can get your little workout in.
Mhm.
It's magical. You know, for healthy people and especially for people who cannot do what healthy people can do.
Now, is
So
this are these bands really special? I mean, can you just go online and just find some
so
bands and try
you
them
do have
on?
to
And
be careful about how you buy them and where you buy them. So our company is B3, and you know, the people I talk to, I'll send a website, and you could become an affiliate if you wanted to, and get in the company, or just buy them as a customer. But if you went to Amazon, for instance, there will be a bunch of cheaper ones. However, they ours are the only ones who've had safety studies done on them, because if you do cut off too much and use it like a tourniquet, it can be dangerous.
Mhm.
So ours are the only ones that have like chambers. So it's not just one, and they're very soft and flexible. So you cannot occlude your blood completely. It literally just slows it down. And we teach people how much air to put in and figure it out. And they're super safe. So yeah, there are other ones you can go on Amazon and buy them, but that you need to really consult with someone, because, and that's what our company offers as well, the B3 company. They offer 30 days, yeah, they offer free coaching. They
Mhm.
offer 30-day money back guarantee. And I actually am a B3 certified coach as well, because
Mhm.
it's something you really want to know before you try and help someone else with it. You know, you really want to understand it, and know when it's appropriate not to use. But for the most part, pretty much everyone is safe to use it. If your doctor gives you the green light to exercise, you pretty much can do it.
That is really
Yeah.
wonderful. Because, talking about cutting edge, I had kind of heard about it before, but I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that's too complicated. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself if I just go buy that and try it.
You
So, I think the right training and having someone guiding you on what to
totally.
do is a lot safer way to go. I mean,
Absolutely. And that's why when you buy them, so they're like $449. You can go and get a set for 60 of like just straps. But then you can also get those in the thousands that physical therapists are using, and ours are really just easy to use and transportable. You can like literally I take them wherever I go. You know, even like let's say Leora is having surgery and she's in a hospital for days. I can just in her room
mhm.
set to do a few squats, a little bit of the tubing, and I've got my workout in.
That's
So
just amazing. That's amazing. We're always looking for these biohacks or these things to make things faster, easier.
right. And
Just so amazing.
the beauty is you're using your own body. You're not putting anything in it. There's no Ozempic, there's no, drug. It's your body creating human growth hormone that you can go and buy synthetic for thousands of dollars a month and then deal with the side effects later. But why? You can make it.
That is so cool that we can make it. So it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 80, you can be 90, you
Yeah,
can still make it
you
using this
can still
method.
make it. You can still make it. Isn't that amazing?
That is like so, so
Because
amazing.
if you look at the graph, at the curve where we stop producing as much, it's all there. It just can't be produced because you need the high intensity exercise to produce it. It only is produced naturally up until like somewhere around 25, and then it starts to go down
And that's
unless
why it
you,
gets harder to build muscle and
right.
keep muscle.
Yeah, and then you start to lose muscle and bone density and everything. And then it's amazing. It was in Japan for over 50 years that they were hiding this. And
That's
then a Dr. Gunderson decided to, I think, bring it to the States, and Dr. Mike DeBoard founded the company of B3, because he was someone in his 50s at the time he's a chiropractor who through all the years of heavy lifting has 2 knee replacements and a hip replacement, or 2 hips and 1 knee. And, so he was like, he couldn't even lift anymore. He felt like an old man, and he hated that. And so he got involved in this. So,
Beautiful.
mother of necessity.
So if people wanted to connect with you to find out more, do you have websites? How can they connect with you? What services are you offering right now?
So I offer one-on-one coaching. I can do presentations anywhere, with the B3 bands, and educate people in a group if they wanted. And I'm also happy to do one-on-ones. So I don't know if you have the website.
I'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, and because then they can just contact me through the website or my phone number or even my email. And I would be glad to walk them through the best way and in my initial consultation, absolutely free. And then, and again, I think right now, the best way of getting this, and I did a presentation yesterday, is educating people of the possibilities of what they can do. And that was where I met the woman with the eye issue. That, then they can tap into me individually and see, can this work for me? This is my, and yeah, I think that's a really great way. And again, one-on-one is great too.
Beautiful. Well, now I have a personal question for you.
Yes.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Okay. I have 2 things. I have my number one is my grandson. He is my life and joy, and I think my savior in terms of just absolute joy, like unbridled joy. And unfortunately, he lives in Toronto, so we FaceTime every day. And I try and get there as much as I can. Sometimes it's difficult if Leora is going through treatment or the surgery. And he comes there. He's only just over 2 years old. And my next to that is really seeing a change in people that I've been able to elevate this much. That gives me so much joy. Just seeing that little change and hope, and losing the fear and the impossibilities when I can see that in a client's face, and it's just it's unbelievable, that feeling. Those are that makes me so happy, my baby. And it's going to be my only one. My little was almost 40. She's not going to have more children, and Leora can't have children. So, my angel.
Yes. And all grandparents understand. It's a wonderful thing.
It is, you always hear when you roll your eyes when you're young, oh, stop talking about your grandchild. Like, this is so annoying. And I'm like, all right, I get it now.
Yep. You get it now. So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And
Thank you.
sharing this. Yes.
I think that was wonderful. And yeah, and I'd love to share this as much as I can, because it really can help so many people.
Yes. So I have one last question before we finish. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice, I think, is really tap into your own body and move and eat well. Those are the 2 things. Just movement and diet. There's so much more, but those are the 2 basic things, I think, to start with.
All right.
And surround yourself with positive people.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kim.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Beautiful. Thank you.